Hi everyone. So I am just commenting on Alita's post about ethics and the TED Talk that she posted. I thought that was a really good TED Talk. Working in pediatrics, we do see lots of rare and very uncommon diseases. So it was interesting to hear from a parent that has a child with one of those rare and very uncommon diseases. So the thing that from the video that really struck me, though, was about the not sharing of information between researchers. I knew that this was a thing and I knew that this was common, but I guess just to hear it actually being spoken to a family would be so disheartening and so discouraging. So it kind of makes you mad because it's like, wouldn't we all want to come together to solve this problem or cure this disease? So I thought that was really interesting that they would actually come out forthright and say that to a family. So that was something that really stuck with me. So in response to Alita's questions about what would be needed to receive, or what ways could we change the way that certain researchers or groups or companies or medical centers get funding, I think a very easy way would be that in the application to receive funding, it would be a requirement that there has to be a collaboration of research with either another team or another medical center or anything like that. There has to be some type of partnership. There has to be a requirement of sharing some information or utilizing each other's resources. But basically, there would have to be a collaboration of those two research groups before the funding could come together. So, for example, it could be like Cincinnati Children's Hospital with CHOP in Philadelphia. Or Seattle Children's and, Texas Children's or whatever. Anything like that. But there would be an absolute hard and fast requirement that there had to be some type of collaboration for funding to be approved for a research project. So that was kind of my idea. And then her second question, I kind of had to think about for a little bit because, it's very much an ethical question of should groups that are looking at very common diseases that affect millions of children or millions of people, should those receive more funding than for groups that are for very rare and uncommon diseases? Right off the bat, my initial response is yes, that those groups that are working to cure ALL or to cure, I don't know, just, diabetes or, whatever, something that affects a lot of children. Yes, my initial response is yes, that they should be able to receive more funding because in my mind, a big part of ethics is what can be done for the greater good. And so work should be done to affect or to do the best things for the most people. That's kind of my own personal belief of ethics. But then when I kind of sit back and think about it, those other kids with those rare and super uncommon diseases, the one in 100,000 or, the one in a million, those kind of kids, the PXE that was talked about in the TED Talk, those kids deserve the right to have research being done on those diseases as well. So I don't know. I feel like there should be allocated amounts for those groups. And I don't know if it necessarily should be one should receive more funding than the other or more support or more resources. But maybe just in like a slightly different way. I would imagine that funding would still need to be pretty similar, but maybe the resources would be different for that kind of smaller group. I'm not sure. I'm not a researcher, so I don't know the exact kind of ins and outs of that. But, it's funny how you have that kind of initial response, and then you have to step back and think like, well, maybe that's not necessarily the most ethical or the best way. So I think that comes into one of those ethical dilemmas where you kind of have to toy that line and think, what can we do for all? And like I said, what can we do for the greater good? So I think both groups would need similar funding, resources, etc. So I thought it was a great TED Talk, and thanks, Alita.